The night my daughter got married, I was sitting alone in my living room in Clarksville, Tennessee, eating reheated chicken and watching the 10 o'clock news. Not because I forgot. Not because I was out of town. Not because something came up at work. I wasn't there because my wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "Gerald, just let Nora have her day." And because Nora, my own daughter, the little girl I taught to ride a bike in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot on Providence Boulevard, agreed with her. So I stayed home. At 10:14 that night, my phone started lighting up. Someone inside that reception hall had pulled out their phone and recorded the groom, a man named Tyler Ashton Briggs, grabbing my daughter by the wrist in front of 200 people. And then, when she tried to pull away, slapping her across the face so hard her tiara hit the floor. The video was already on 3 different news stations by the time my neighbor knocked on my door to ask if I'd seen it. My name is Gerald Pute. I'm 54 years old. I spent 26 years as a detective with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office before I retired 2 years ago. Homicides, domestics, child abuse cases. I have sat across from people who did terrible things and kept my face completely neutral. That night, watching that video on my phone, I could not keep my face neutral. But you can't understand what happened that night without understanding the 6 months that led up to it. Nora is my only child. Her mother, Pamela, and I have been married 31 years. We live on Crossland Avenue, 3 blocks from the elementary school where Nora used to walk home alone because she was the kind of kid who needed that independence. Always stubborn in the way that comes from confidence, not defiance. She gets it from me. Pamela will tell you she gets it from her. Pamela is wrong about that one. Nora met Tyler Briggs at a corporate networking event in Nashville about 2.5 years ago. She was in marketing for a healthcare company downtown. Tyler was in commercial real estate. He wore a sport coat over a Henley and told her he grew up in Franklin, which in Middle Tennessee is the equivalent of saying old money without actually saying it. I met Tyler for the first time at dinner on Division Street, the kind of restaurant where the noise level is just high enough that you have to lean in and spend the whole meal slightly off balance. Maybe that was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. What I know is that Tyler spent most of dinner talking about himself and asking me questions that felt less like curiosity and more like reconnaissance. He wanted to know what cases I'd worked. He wanted to know if I was still connected to law enforcement. He asked twice whether I kept in touch with people at the department. I'm a retired detective. When someone asks me the same question twice in one dinner, I notice. I told Pamela on the drive home that something about Tyler didn't sit right with me. She told me I was being a cop instead of a father, that I looked at everyone like a suspect, that Nora was happy, and wasn't that what mattered? She wasn't entirely wrong. 26 years of that work changes your instincts in ways that aren't always fair to civilians. I tried to give Tyler the benefit of the doubt. I went to Sunday dinners when he was there. I watched the game with him. I noticed the way he interrupted Nora when she was telling a story. Not aggressively, just consistently, the way someone does when they've decided your words aren't as important as theirs. I noticed that whenever I asked Nora a question directly, she'd glance at him before answering. But she seemed happy. And what are you supposed to do with that? They got engaged in December. Tyler proposed at the rooftop of the Thompson Hotel in Nashville. Photographer, the whole setup. Nora called me from the parking garage afterward, still crying the good kind of tears. I told her I was happy for her because I was trying to be. The wedding planning started immediately. Pamela threw herself into it. Binders, fabric swatches, cake samples on the kitchen counter. The venue, a restored estate called Glenstone Hall out near Gallatin. The date, the second Saturday in October. About 200 guests. I was included in the broad strokes. I was not included in anything that actually mattered. The first sign came in February. Tyler's family wanted the ceremony structured a certain way, traditional, Nora said, which meant his stepfather walking him in, his mother giving a reading, the receiving line starting on the groom's side. Fine. Weddings involve compromise. The second sign came in April. Lunch with Nora at Puckett's in Franklin. Just the 2 of us, which had become rarer since Tyler. She looked down at her sweet tea and said, "Daddy, Tyler thinks it would be better if you didn't give a toast." I put my fork down. Not because of the toast. I'm not that guy. But because of the way she said it. Like she'd been rehearsing. Like she'd been carrying it for weeks before she could bring herself to say it to my face. Tyler thinks, I said. What do you think? She said carefully that she thought it might put us both in a weird spot. That was not an answer to my question. I'm a detective. I know the difference between an answer and a deflection. But she was looking at me with that expression. Not scared exactly, more like braced, waiting to see if I'd make it harder for her. I let it go. The third sign came in July. Pamela sat me down at the kitchen table on a Tuesday evening with coffee neither of us needed at 7 o'clock. And she told me that Nora and Tyler had decided it would be best if I didn't attend the wedding. I'm going to say that again. My own daughter's wedding. Pamela explained it carefully. Tyler's family was large and close-knit. His older brother had some kind of past legal issue. My history in law enforcement, combined with what Pamela called my protective energy, would make things tense. Tyler had made it clear this mattered to him. And Nora had agreed. Nora agreed, I said. Pamela looked at her coffee. She wants the day to go smoothly, Gerald. I thought about calling Nora. Started dialing her number 5 times over the following week. But every time I got close, I thought about her face at that lunch in Franklin. Braced, hoping I wouldn't make it harder, and I put the phone down. I told myself it was just one day. I told myself that if I pushed back, I was proving Tyler right about me. I told myself the most important thing was Nora's long-term happiness. And if I turned this into a battle, I might win the day and lose my daughter. I told Pamela I wouldn't go. For the next 3 months, I watched from the outside as my wife helped plan a wedding I wasn't invited to. The Saturday in October was clear and cold. That sharp Tennessee autumn blue, the maples on the back roads near Gallatin gone the color of fire. I know this because I drove part of the way out there that morning without deciding to. I ended up on Long Hollow Pike with no particular destination and had to turn myself around and come home. I spent the day doing things with no meaning. Mowed a lawn that didn't need mowing. Reorganized the garage. Ate a sandwich standing over the kitchen sink because I didn't want to sit at the table and feel the emptiness of the house. Pamela texted me a photo of Nora in her dress right before the ceremony. Nora looked beautiful. She was smiling the kind of smile that takes effort. I've spent 26 years learning to tell the difference between a real smile and a performance. I looked at that photo for a long time. By 10 o'clock I was back on the couch, television on, phone face down on the cushion beside me, because I didn't want to watch for updates and couldn't stop myself from watching for updates, and the only compromise I could manage was not being able to see the screen light up. 10:14, the screen lit up. It was my former partner Ray Benton, who works cold cases out of the Hendersonville office now. His text said, Gerald, Channel 5, right now. The footage was already playing when I turned on the television. Someone had uploaded it to Twitter at 9:47. By the time it hit the local news stations, it had been viewed 80,000 times. The graphic beneath the anchor's face read, Violent incident at Gallatin wedding reception. Groom under investigation. The video was shot on a phone. Slightly shaky landscape orientation. Whoever filmed it had started recording in a hurry. You could see the reception hall of Glenstone Hall, the tall windows, the string lights, the round tables with white linens and the dance floor in the center. And you could see my daughter Nora standing near the edge of it in her wedding dress. Tyler was talking at her. His body language was wrong from the very first frame. Weight forward, chin down, the posture of a man who has already decided how this ends. I could read it the way I read a crime scene. Before anything happened, I already knew something was about to. Nora put her hand on his arm. He grabbed her wrist. She pulled back, and for just a moment she looked the way Nora has never looked in her entire life. Small, uncertain, afraid. His right hand came up and he slapped her. Not a push, not a shove. He slapped her across the face. The sound cut through everything else on that recording, that sharp crack, and then 200 people going silent all at once, which is its own terrible kind of sound. Her tiara fell. She put her hand to her cheek. He stood there for exactly 2 seconds, you could count them, and then his expression shifted into something I recognized immediately from 26 years of sitting across tables from people who'd done damage and were calculating how to survive it. Damage control. He reached for her. She stepped back. That's where the video ended. I was standing in the middle of my living room. I don't remember getting up. My phone rang. Pamela. Gerald. Her voice the way it gets when she's trying not to fall apart. I need you to come. I was in my truck and on Old Hickory Boulevard inside 4 minutes. The drive to Gallatin on a Saturday night takes 45 minutes. I made it in 32. I know the speed limits on those roads because I spent years enforcing them. I want to be honest. I did not observe a single one of them. Pamela met me in the parking lot of Glenstone Hall, still in her mother of the bride dress. Mascara down her face. Guests still milling around outside, not sure whether to leave or stay. Tyler's groomsmen standing near the garden wall with their jackets off. Where is she? Inside. The bridal suite. Where is he? His brothers took him out the back. There's already a cruiser out front. 2 Sumner County deputies were at the main entrance. I showed my retired credentials. Pamela had called ahead and given them my name. I went inside. The reception hall had that particular quality of a party that ended wrong. Half-eaten plates on tables, glasses with lipstick on the rims, centerpieces knocked sideways. The DJ equipment being quietly packed up in the corner. I walked past all of it like it was a scene, because it was. Nora was in the bridal suite with 3 bridesmaids and my sister-in-law Diane. When I walked through the door, the bridesmaids gave me that look. The look of young women who have been trying to handle something too large for them and are desperate for an adult to walk in. Nora was sitting in front of the vanity mirror, still in her dress. Her tiara was on the counter beside her. One side of the comb slightly bent from where it had hit the floor. There was redness along her left cheekbone. She'd been crying. She wasn't crying now. She was past that, in the flat, quiet place that comes after. She looked at me in the mirror. Hi, Daddy. Something broke loose in my chest that I am not going to describe further, because I am a 54-year-old retired police detective, and there are limits to what I'll say out loud about certain moments. I walked over and put my hands on her shoulders and looked at her in that mirror. Tell me what you need. She took a breath. I need you to help me figure out what to do, that I could do. That is something I have spent my entire professional life doing for other people. And now I was going to do it for my daughter. From 26 years of working domestic violence cases, I knew this. The next 72 hours matter more than almost anything else. Whether a victim speaks to law enforcement immediately, whether injuries get documented, whether they have legal counsel before the other side establishes their version of events. Not because the law demands it in any rigid way, but because people who do harm understand that time is on their side if the victim hesitates. They count on hesitation. Tyler's stepfather, Randall Briggs, was a commercial developer out of Brentwood with a network that included attorneys, city council members, and people who returned favors quietly. I had seen what that kind of network could do to a case. I'd watched it neutralize witnesses, slow investigations, and turn clear situations murky through patience and money. What Tyler hadn't counted on was 200 witnesses, and one of them had kept filming. The woman who posted the video at 9:47 was a college friend of Nora's named Brittany Warfield, who had flown in from Atlanta for the wedding. She'd started filming because she thought she was capturing a funny moment, some playful exchange between bride and groom, the kind of thing that makes good wedding content. She realized within 4 seconds that it was not that. She almost deleted it. She told investigators later that she sat in her car in the Glenstone Hall parking lot for 45 minutes trying to decide what to do. She called 2 friends. She prayed. And then she posted it because she couldn't live with herself if she didn't, and because she thought about what she'd want someone to do if she were Nora. Brittany Warfield saved my daughter's case. I want to say that clearly so it doesn't get buried in everything else. That night in the bridal suite, I told Nora 3 things. First, she was not going anywhere with Tyler. Not the hotel suite they'd booked, not their apartment, not a car with him in it. Diane was taking her to Hendersonville. Pamela would be there. I'd be right behind them. Second, the deputies outside needed a statement from her tonight. While the redness on her face was still visible and her memory was fresh, I would be with her the entire time. She didn't have to say anything she didn't want to, but she needed to say something. Third, I was calling an attorney in the morning. Someone in her corner before Tyler's people got organized. Nora listened to all three. Then she said, Mom told me you'd make things complicated. I know she did. She wasn't trying to hurt you. I know that too. A pause. She looked at me in the mirror. I should have fought harder to have you there. I knew something was off. I've known for a long time. I just kept telling myself it would be different once we were married. I didn't say what I was thinking. I didn't say this was a pattern I had seen so many times it had its own name in case literature. That a man who hits his wife in public at their wedding reception in front of 200 people isn't having an aberration. He's making a statement. A man so certain of his own control he'd stopped managing his behavior even in settings where management was clearly called for. I just said, you don't have to figure all of that out tonight. She nodded once. Okay, let's go talk to the deputies. Nora sat across from two Sumner County deputies in a small room off the main hall and gave them a clear, chronological, emotionally controlled account of what had happened. She described the argument that preceded it. Tyler had been drinking. There had been tension about the seating arrangement and his mother. They'd moved to the edge of the dance floor because she wanted to resolve it quietly. She described the physical contact in precise terms. She did not minimize it. She did not dramatize it. One of the deputies, young, maybe mid-20s, looked up from his notepad at one point and asked, Ma'am, is this the first time something like this has happened? Nora looked at him for a moment. Then she said, No. That single word, spoken quietly in a bridal suite in Gallatin, Tennessee, became the foundation of everything that followed. Tyler Ashton Briggs was arrested that night. Sumner County deputies located him at a Days Inn off Highway 31E, where he checked in at 11:30. The charge was domestic assault, committed in public on video in front of 200 witnesses. His stepfather hired a criminal defense attorney from Nashville within 18 hours. Former prosecutor, well-regarded, the kind of hire that tells you the family understood exactly what they were dealing with. His attorney issued a statement saying Tyler deeply regretted the incident, that it was an isolated moment of stress, and that the couple were working through things privately. The couple were not working through anything privately. Nora retained her own attorney, a woman named Susan Kellner at a family law firm in downtown Nashville, recommended by a former colleague of mine who handles victim advocacy. Susan is quiet, precise, and absolutely unmovable. She and Nora spoke for 2 hours the morning after the wedding, while Nora was still at Diane's house in Hendersonville wearing borrowed clothes. She had left Glenstone Hall in her wedding dress and nothing else. The criminal case moved through the system over the next 4 months. Tyler's attorney argued mitigating circumstances. First offense, claimed the video didn't capture the full context. The DA's office countered with Nora's statement, Brittany's footage, testimony from 11 other witnesses, and evidence Nora provided from the preceding 18 months, photographs, text messages, and a journal she'd kept in a notes app on her phone starting in February, 8 months before the wedding, after an incident in the kitchen of their East Nashville apartment that she had told nobody about at the time. In May, Tyler Ashton Briggs pleaded guilty to domestic assault in Sumner County Criminal Court. Suspended sentence, mandatory counseling, a 2-year restraining order. The divorce was finalized last month. Nora kept the apartment, it was in her name. She didn't want anything else from Tyler. Her attorney advised against it. Nora did it anyway because what she wanted was a clean line and she wasn't willing to negotiate that. About 3 weeks after the wedding, Pamela and I sat at the kitchen table on Crossland Avenue at 11 o'clock at night with coffee neither of us was drinking. She told me she should have pushed back on Tyler months before any of this. That she had seen things and made excuses for them. The way he spoke to Nora when he thought no one was paying attention. The way Nora's posture changed when he walked into a room. A moment at Easter dinner where Tyler said something about Nora's career that wasn't quite an insult but wasn't quite not one either. And Nora had laughed it off with an expertise that had frightened Pamela a little. But Pamela had told herself it meant Nora was handling it. I thought if I kept things smooth it would work itself out, Pamela said. That Nora would figure it out on her own. That fighting about it would only push her closer to him. I've heard that reasoning before. I've heard it from mothers sitting at kitchen tables exactly like this one, in cases that didn't end the way ours did. You were trying to protect her, I said. So was I when I stepped back. We were both wrong about the best way to do it. Pamela was quiet for a moment. Then she said Nora had called her the morning after the wedding, before she called the attorney. She said, "Mom, Daddy came to Glenstone Hall as fast as I've ever seen anyone move." Pamela stopped. She said she wants to be the kind of person who moves like that for the people she loves. I don't have anything to add to that. I think that says everything. It's been 7 months since the wedding. Nora is still in the apartment on Shelby Avenue near 5 Points in East Nashville. She went back to work 10 days after everything happened. Said the routine helped. Her company handled the situation with real discretion when entertainment news outlets started circling the story in the weeks after the video went viral. She's in therapy on Tuesdays. She talks about it plainly, without shame or performance, the way she talks about most things. She says it helps. I drive up to Nashville twice a month. We go to lunch. We went to a Predators game in January, which she initiated, and that told me something. We talk most Sunday evenings now, which we hadn't done since she was in college. She asked me once, about 2 months after everything, whether I was angry that I hadn't been at the wedding. I thought about it carefully. "I'm angry," I said, "that you were in a situation where keeping the peace meant leaving me out of it. That's what Tyler created. He made himself the thing everyone else had to manage around, and that meant good people made choices they wouldn't otherwise have made." "Are you angry at me?" "No. I meant it completely. You were doing the best you knew how with what you had. So was your mother. So was I when I agreed to stay home. None of us are the story here. Tyler is the story." She was quiet for a moment. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if Brittany hadn't filmed it. I've thought about that too. More than I want to admit. The honest answer is I don't know. Maybe nothing would have changed immediately. Maybe the control Tyler had built over 18 months would have continued. Maybe Nora would have found her way out eventually on her own timeline. Or maybe it would have gotten worse. In my experience, it usually does. But Brittany did film it. And 200 people saw it happen in real time. And someone knocked on my door and asked if I'd seen the news. And I was 40 minutes away and I made it in 32. That's the part one hold on to. Not the months I spent on the outside. Not the things I could have done differently. Not the conversation I should have had with Tyler the night something in his voice made my instincts pull up short and I told myself I was being unfair. I hold on to 32 minutes on Old Hickory Boulevard. My daughter's face in that mirror. And the fact that when she needed me, I was there. That's enough. That has to be enough. And most days it is. I'm Gerald Pute, retired detective, father. And I am here to tell you that the people who love you, the ones who show up at 10:30 at night when everything has come apart, are worth more than any single day. Even the day someone told you you'd make it awkward. If this story meant something to you, drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more. And if you've ever stayed quiet to keep the peace when you should have spoken up, this one's for you too. I'll see you next time.